They're very brief. Like, I hate that the chairs don't.
Never done a.
Bro, it's gonna be interesting.
But I do have a correction for you. I'll get to it later. It's a small thing. Okay. Now, you put Baja budget for tacos.
The last stage.
And then the,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I know. I figured that's why.
You know, the buckets would be much fun to.
They're supposed to order it in August, and those students still have not received it.
My first is
I'll give it to you. Yeah. I got you.
It should say.
Are you on council? Yeah, not anymore.
It might go as unlisted.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard.
Caleb, you're right across from me, bro.
Yeah, I know. Oh, Michaela.
I thought it was so funny.
Senator Hayes.
Is that the microphone?
You can have it.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Sean!
I can take that. I can take one.
Second to life, guys. Here we are. Yeah. See, I haven't advertised this one yet because I don't know if it will work. But now that it works, can we get? Keep it the other.
Guys, before we get started, do y'all want to be in the Insta takeover?
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Insta takeover.
Oh yes, yeah. It was just something to like watch these videos.
There's a lot of empty.
Hold on, I'm gonna let the two questions.
Taking
Making a selfie. Get you.
Get ready for the Instagram. Oh my God. Can I even get everyone?
It's okay, Cam. 0.5 it.
Corner. Do corner.
Like,
That one.
Yeah, do it, yeah.
Okay.
It's not gonna work.
Sideways.
Do a video?
Oh. Camden!
Go 0.5. Yeah.
Let's do a video.
Yeah.
What are we gonna say? Or just wait?
Just wait.
Oh. Alright, we're just going for it. Everyone just wait. Yeah, I totally just did a video for it. Not gonna work on it.
And then she'll know.
I'm probably. Oh, there's someone else. We have to film it.
Thank you so much.
I don't.
Oh, I think that's
Meeting to order, move to roll call.
Senator Aponte,
Here.
Senator Amaya,
Here.
Senator Arias,
Here.
Senator Boateng, Senator Bundy,
Here.
Senator Cloutier, Senator Cody,
Here.
Senator DeJesus,
Here.
Senator Goyette,
Here.
Senator Hunt,
Present.
Senator Kelly,
Here.
Senator Mank,
Here.
Senator Powers,
Present.
Senator Sayre,
Here.
Senator Walker,
Here.
Senator Walton,
Here.
Senator Van Zandt,
Here.
Chairperson Barrett Miller, Chairperson Kaufman,
Here.
Chairperson Marshall, here, Chairperson Farrell,
Present.
Chairperson Victor,
Here.
Secretary Heaney, Vice President Riley, and President Alboy.
Present. All right, welcome everybody. We are back in our normal Senate chambers after last week's meeting. So something cool right now is this is our first official live streamed meeting. I have us recording this on our YouTube page. We haven't advertised it yet because I want to see if it works. But after this meeting, if the audio is good and the video is good, then we'll go ahead and start advertising this for anyone to live stream and watch these as we do these meetings. All right, so starting with acceptance of minutes. A motion to accept the minutes from the 9/26/2023 meeting. Second. Are there any questions, comments, additions, deletions on this? Yes.
I actually sent it into her. There were a few grammar errors.
Okay,
Those were already sent.
perfect. Thank you for doing that. All right, any other comments? All right, we will move to a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passed. Minutes accepted from the 9/26/2023 meeting. Move to motion to accept the 10/3/2023 minutes. Second. Are there any additions, deletions, revisions? All right, move to a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Motion to accept the 10/17/2023 meeting minutes.
Second.
Are there any additions, deletions, revisions? Okay, move to a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. All right, next on the agenda, we have Club of the Month. So I'll hand it over to Chairperson Marshall to discuss it, but before she does that, I want to talk about the award. So this award was an award that Senate used to give out years back, and I think it's important for Student Senate to recognize the hard work of clubs and organizations, because we do have some really special clubs and organizations who work very hard to put on great programming, class bonding, stuff like that. So I'll hand it over to Chairperson Marshall to announce our September Club of the Month.
Yes, so the recipient of our Club of the Month for the month of September is United and Mutually Equal, who are here.
Everyone from United Mutually Equal can come forward and take a picture. I'll get my head out of the way.
Oh.
Open the floor if anybody has anything they would like to say about United and Mutually Equal. Yes, Secretary.
You guys always put on amazing events, whether they be for food oriented, that everybody loves. There's always lines around the block for them, but also just kind of like community bonding in terms of the larger campus community, but also the Springfield community and surrounding areas. So we thank you for that, and excited to see what other programming you do this year and next year.
Thank you. Any other comments for, yes?
I don't know if I'm allowed.
Yes, you are.
So shameless plug, Friends and Family Weekend, we will have Cody Blackbird, who is an indigenous performer, He's a flautist and a storyteller. He's going to be in CCA at 5:30 on the 4th. So we would love to see you come out and support and hear his amazing flute playing and storytelling.
Thank you. Any other comments about this? Yes, Senator.
As a member of United Mutually Equal, I'm also a member of the mentoring program that came from there. I believe they are very deserving of this award, and all the things that they do on campus really helps bring the community together. So very deserving of it. Congratulations.
Other comments? All right, thank you. Last thing that I want to say is, again, props to you all for all the work you do. Every time I see a You and Me event, the turnout is always tremendous. But also the work you do is, I think, so important for our community because there's an education aspect. You know, there's a learning of different cultures and stuff like that. So I really thank you all for the work that you do. So thank you. Congratulations one more time. All right, next we are going to move into Senator of the Month. But it does not look like our Senator of the Month is here today. So we are going to announce who it is, but they can accept the award from here tomorrow, or not tomorrow, so next week. So I'll send it over to you.
I had a little spiel to kind of reveal who the senator is, but I'll let them kind of figure it out next week just to kind of mess with them a little bit. But the September 2023 Senator of the Month is Senator Emmy Burns.
So we'll do the formalities next week.
Don't say anything.
Unless you watch the live stream. All right, moving to new and existing business, starting with the residence hall mold discussion. So for this discussion, we do have representatives from facilities here who are going to give a presentation and kind of discuss their end of the project for this issue. And then after that, we'll open the floor to questions. So I'll allocate 20 minutes to this discussion.
And that was fun. Fast as I can. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Rosinski, Director of Facilities. Most of you know me. I've been here, this May will make 3 years. I wanted to really quickly introduce my team that I brought with me, and they'll take turns speaking at different points. I've got Pete Goodale. He's the manager of HVAC. I've got Tim Keefe. He's the manager of environmental safety. I've got Nick Del Buono. He's the manager of housekeeping. And I've got Joe Gibbons, who is the manager of buildings. So those are the key players that take care of the entire campus. And we're going to do that presentation in a second. I kind of wanted to kick off with a couple of things. So yeah, we've received some concerns about mold. And those of you that know me, and I've spoken about this topic many times before, mold is, what is my word?
Ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous.
So, but I want to clarify, and let me also preface, I'm not a physician, obviously, and I'm not a scientist. I've just been doing this for a long time. I do have different certifications, and I've worked in healthcare for 34 years, where we would take anything airborne very seriously. The thing with mold spores is they are everywhere. So they're in this room right now. They're outside. They're in your car. They're at your house. They're everywhere. Don't take my word for it. Google it. Google it right now. Where are mold spores? The difference between a mold spore and active mold is really the question, right? And so we're going to talk about that in the presentation. We work very hard to ensure that we don't get mold actively growing anywhere. Does anybody remember this past winter? I know Mr. Coopy does, where we had a bad flood in the science building. Anybody remember what we had to do after that? We had to cut open all the walls where we had a bad flood. Why did we cut those walls open? Because we can't dry out the insides of those walls. We have to cut them open. So we literally saw cut a foot up on multiple floors in multiple areas where we knew that there was moisture. We did this because if we allowed that moisture to stay there, eventually mold would grow. So we had to open it all up, dry it all out. And once it was dry, we could then re-drywall it all back, paint it, and put it all back together. That particular weekend, the same thing happened in Sleeth. And we had to do the same thing in Sleeth Hall. We have found the preponderance of concerns about mold to be in the quads and in Commonwealth. Yeah, and there's a very specific reason for that. The reason predominantly is that both of those, let's think of the quads as one building. I know it's three, but they're all exactly the same. So the difference between the quads and Commonwealth are exactly the same design. The other residence halls, Southwood, Evergreen, Wyndham, are different in the way that they are mechanically designed. The quads and Commonwealth bring their airflow in from the ground and up and through and out. And I'm going to let Pete speak to this at the end of the presentation, but we do a very thorough job of cleaning those units. We HEPA back them. Everybody familiar with HEPA? Okay, the term HEPA. So we HEPA back those units. And we also have a process, and Pete brought it along to show you. We have a sterilizer that we also use to clean. But I think you all can appreciate from your own houses and your own experience that if you don't continually clean, eventually, if areas are allowed to stay wet, or if we have dust, or we have food, or we have any kind of trash or anything like that around, eventually those mold spores will land and they will grow. This is just common knowledge, and I invite you to look on the CDC's website, Massachusetts Department of Public Health's website, and you'll see all of this. And the Environmental Protection Agency also has a lengthy discussion on this very topic. I was able to find some interesting YouTube videos put together by a school out in San Diego that I thought would be very helpful. They're really short. They'll be part of Tim's presentation, and I'm going to let him kind of kick that off. Before I start the presentation, does anyone have any specific questions of me? Yes.
I know that there were people going around informing, like, if a student filed a work order that said there was mold in their room, were they any concerned about it? Were there a lot of students that were concerned about mold that actually had mold, or was that? I can't give you exact stats. There weren't nearly, if for those of you that might recall, 2 years ago, we had this very same discussion. Last year, we did, it was 2021. From 2 years ago to today, we have, of course, I was new at that time, we've dramatically changed our cleaning practices and our preventative maintenance practices. But yes, we did find a couple, yep. But we didn't find, I think the thing that I need to be able to get across to you, if I can, is that we do not have a systemic mold problem, right? You know, someone brought up to me the other day, what about like the Springfield Courthouse? Oh, they always said there was no problem with that. It turned out to be a huge issue. It did, for a ton of reasons. But you have to remember here, every single room in the quads has its own individual area. They're all separate. Springfield Courthouse is one giant air handler, right? So you have a problem in one giant air handler, you're going to push that problem everywhere. Each one of you has, if you're in the quads, has your own individual air handler. And it's the same thing true for Commonwealth. The only thing that they do share in common is that there's a piping system that is either pushing cold water through to make air conditioning or hot water through to make heat. Otherwise, it's a standalone system. And the reason that we're always bugging you to keep the front of the cabinets open is so that we can get the proper airflow through. Because once the air stops flowing, we start to get the dust build up. The dust is food. If you run the air conditioning and you have the window open at the same time, now we have condensation. Now we got water. So the spores are in the air. We got dust as the food. We got water, and we got oxygen. And that's the four things it needs, and it will start to grow. And that's why, in some cases, you might find a few little gaps on the diffuser. And by diffuser, I mean that grill. You know, that's a diffuser right there, okay? So mold can't grow on bare metal, but it can grow on the dust on the metal, right? So we try very hard to keep everything clean. The other thing I'd like to mention too, right out of the gate, is if you buy a home mold test on Amazon and you swap this table right here, do you think you'll get mold? If you take it home to your house, do you think you'll get it? I guarantee you. So
That's why the CDC, the Department of Public Health, the Environmental Protection Agency does not recommend doing it. Because you're gonna find it, because it's in the air all the time. We're breathing spores in and out right now. I can tell you there's less inside the building than there is outside, but I guarantee you there's spores everywhere, all the time. The only thing we can do to mitigate that spore starting to grow into mold is keep things clean, keep the air flowing, and really try to minimize moisture. Occasionally we'll find someone's sink is leaking. Underneath the sink, there's water leaking. Nobody knew it. Some mold started to grow there. It's very easy to clean up. We just use the same thing you use in your own shower. Right? Use something with bleach in it. Nick can speak to it at the end about the chemicals that we use. And that's the end of it. And we fix the leak. If the leak in place and we never fix that, we will mold in those areas. So just for anyone to say that they absolutely do not have any mold anywhere, everywhere all the time. All we can do is control the building systems, make sure that if we have a break, we fix it. If it's a big crazy thing like the flood we had in CSP, then we've got a much bigger job to do, which means lots of extraction, treating all of that stuff, removing all that drywall, everything that got wet's got to be removed. So that's kind of the bigger picture of what's going on. And I'm doing my best to meet with students to explain to them my concern around doing the swab test. Anything you swab, a ceiling tile, rug, table, you'll find it. I'm going to let Tim do his presentation because I don't want to use too much time. But here's one thing I can really speak to well, and Nick can speak to it really well also. In my years in healthcare, when we test an operating room to make sure that that OR is clean for use, the epidemiology department will typically go through an OR and they'll swab certain areas and then they culture it to see if something grows. If something grows, then we know that the cleaning wasn't done properly between cases, between OR cases. And that is common routine, and I've been a part of that process my whole career. If you leave an OR sit for a couple of weeks and don't use it and don't clean it and you swab it, you will get mold growth, guaranteed. Which is why, when ORs are shelved for a while and not used, they have to be completely cleaned before they're used. And with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Tim, and I will take any questions at the end.
All right, thanks, Dave. So as David mentioned, we try to have a proactive approach towards cleaning filters, doing regular PMs, preventive maintenance. So Pete and his team do that twice a year, especially in those Commonwealth and quad areas. But some ways we can keep mold out of the building and out of our homes. We control humidity levels. So if you guys put a work order in, you'll see two of us go into your dorm room, and I usually have this device with me. This tells me how much humidity is in the air. And there's a lot of contributing factors there. So you could have your heat running on a cold day, you could have condensation in your vents, but we're trying to prevent any moisture or anything like that in the air. We're also trying to fix leaky roofs, windows, and pipes through facilities as well. And through cleaning and drying after flooding. As David mentioned, in CSP and Sleeth, we had that flooding issue. And then ventilation in the shower, laundry, cooking area, and leaving those areas unblocked. But I'll play that video for you now.
It's not good when the guy says, "Oh no." I think I'll fill in the dead air.
So
I like that video because the avatar looked familiar to me.
Just say cancel. We're drawing out of everything. Look for the PowerPoint. On the very bottom, click.
No, I know, but you don't see it. You don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it on there? Oh.
It's not now, so you can see it on the screen.
Oh,
Oh.
alright.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't set the two separate.
Mm. Thank you.
Oh.
We get it?
Sorry.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That was enjoy some light.
Yeah, so that'll work. Yeah. No. I think we're gonna audible the videos. So as Dave mentioned, the HVAC configuration in the quads and Commonwealth need more frequent inspections and PMs. But it's due to their configuration. So what they do is they take air from the bottom and they actually spit out air towards the top. So anything that's stored towards the bottom of these units is going to get sucked up into your system. And it's going to go through this filter, which is very helpful. But it's going to clog the filter quicker if you have dirty clothes, if you store hampers there, if you have it blocked in any way. You're not going to get as many air changes. And mold tends to grow quicker with stagnant air. So the less obstructed these units are, the more air flows through the system. The more air flows, the less likely you'll get mold growth. So we want to keep these unobstructed if we can at all times, especially in the quads and Commonwealth. And like I mentioned before, Pete and his team are changing these filters very frequently to make sure that they don't clog up and that you don't have that stagnant air. Yeah, so. And then you have other systems, like I mentioned, don't block those HVAC systems. So in most other dorms, we have a common or shared system. And what that means is the filter is located elsewhere, and air is actually pumped into your room through a centralized system. So, it's not really on the resident or anybody who lives in there to obstruct or do anything in that sense.
Tim, is that an actual room from this campus?
Yes.
Okay.
So temperature and food sources. So like we mentioned, mold can be found almost anywhere. They can grow on any organic surface. It's impossible to eliminate all mold and mold spores in the indoor environment, but it can be controlled by a number of issues, and I'm going to attempt to play a video right now. Let's see how it goes. So according to the CDC, people heard about toxic mold and black mold. Just because you have like black spotting or type of mold doesn't mean it's a hazardous type of black mold. So certain molds are toxigenic, which means they produce toxins. Hazards presented by molds that may produce myotoxins should be considered the same as or in common with ones that grow in your house. And not all fungi produce myotoxin. Even ones that do eventually stop preventing those myotoxins. So there's hundreds of thousands of types of mold. Just because you see the black spotting doesn't mean it's a toxic type of mold. So mold growth, which often looks like spots, maybe different colors, it may smell musty. Color is not an indication of how dangerous a mold can be. Any mold should be removed, and the moisture source that helped it grow should also be removed as well. So that's from the CDC. And this is the last video.
You can just leave.
Did I get it? Start to steal right
I don't think it's gonna work.
Ah,
At least not on the school one.
stuff.
We're at the 20-minute. We're at the 20-minute mark. Add 5 more minutes to this discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Move to 5 more minutes. At this point, I'm going to open the floor to any questions or comments senators have in the interest of time. So we'll go to Senator Cloutier and then Senator.
Can you talk to the actual process of going into the students' rooms and what you'd like from them and what they could expect?
So a couple of things we did, and I'm going to maybe just grab one and pass these down. So we've had a couple of complaints from students who said, no one put in a work order or no one came to my room, or maybe I put in a work order and it was closed and no one came to my room. And so Nick had a great idea. He was in the hospital. So we were there. So we were going to deploy all of our teams. So we go to your room and you're not there. We're going to tell you who we were there and who we were. You know, it doesn't mean you have to be satisfied because we were there. We want you to know we were there. So I have to tell you, I'm going to be really honest. When I go into the rooms in the quads, there's way too much stuff in those rooms, right? When those buildings were built, were bunked, there was one desk and there was one wardrobe. And now you got 2 beds, multiple bunks, and you guys are trying to fit everything in there. Anybody here from the quads? So I know you're really in there. You're really jammed in there. We get it. So we're also going to come up with some kind of a sticker program to put on those units to ask, to try to remind people, keep stuff away from the diffusers. That's really what we need. We need the unit to be able to breathe. The other thing, I beg you, when the air conditioning's on, close the window. If I won the lottery, I would build a dorm and the windows would not open. That might make people angry, but the next time you go visit somebody in the hospital, try and open the window. Why do you think you can't open the window in the hospital? Mold and every other thing that comes in, right? That's why. And so because the windows are open and the air conditioning's on, now we get condensation. There's our key ingredient, water. The mold needs the water. The water, where does the water usually condense? Right around the windows and inside that air conditioning system. And so if there's dust on the filter and there's water inside, we can start to get some mold growth. So that's why we change, that's why the frequency is greater in the quads, that we change those filters. Go ahead.
So like moving forward, how would you want us to address like people's comments of like, oh, I think I have mold? Like, how do you want us
We want you to put in a work order, because we're not, you have to understand, we take this so serious, and there is no way, this is a partnership, right? We have to maintain the facility, and we need your help in certain respects, but I want to go look at it. The team wants to go look at it. So I don't want you to sit there and think, gosh, I wonder if I'm not sure, I'm nervous. Put in a work order. Let us go look at it. We're happy to do it, and we've been doing it right along. And what I would also say is, to answer, I think, the question you asked me at the very beginning, when we we're kind of over the hump, I will calculate everything up and I'll bring back some stats to Senate and say, this is how many work orders we got, this is how many were positive, this is how many were negative. I'd say it's under 20%. But there are times, and I'll provide some photographs where we had little dots of mold on the filter, but those filters were changed and we're actually going through now and we're doing them again, which is kind of our routine in October anyway. It's just this got heated up before we got in there to do it. We do have a list of rooms that we can't open them up. We can't get to them. Really quick, Pete, sure. I just got to show you. It's not me. It's Pete's to show you what. Just speak to this thing really quick. I know we're.
Here's our typical service card. And we have the brand new air filters that we're going through right now and replacing. Okay. We have our HEPA vacuums that we're using to clean all the dust. We have our fogger that we're using to sanitize all the equipment, right? We're using a product called BioFresh CD. It's a bacteriostat. It's also a deodorizer.
And I want to point out,
I love this step.
And I want to point out that product was run through the health center and approved by the health center. So he reviewed it with them and the SDS. It's a very, very mild product. I just want you to know that we did that.
Typically safe chemical to use. It is approved by the EPA. For any stubborn case that we come across that we do have to hit, we have a product called Mold Zapper, basically a chlorine-based cleaner. We do go through and we put condensate drain tablets, right? Because when you're running your air conditioner, right, you're trying to move some of the humidity that's getting removed by the coil, and that's because the coil is colder than the dew point, so it sweats. So these tablets will help treat that condensate in the pan before it goes out the drain to prevent mold, bacteria, fungi, the kind of things that we don't want to do. We are dating all our filters month and year, and we have a pretty good record of everything that we're doing. And we're going through the quads 3 times a year. Along with Commonwealth.
Because they're different.
Because
than
they're
the
different.
other units. We check the other units. Everything else is twice a year, but it gets inspected more often just in case something is different or something's changing.
All right, a motion to add 5 more minutes to the discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. First, I want to open the floor to senators for any comments first. If you have a comment, you can make them, and then we'll go into questions. Because I just want to make sure that if any of you do have comments or concerns you'd like to state, you can state them now. And then after that, we'll have questions that can be answered by facilities. Are there any comments or concerns on the floor right now? Yes, Senator Powers.
I kind of feel bad because this is a bit of a hybrid, but it also is a clarification question because you had mentioned, the Amazon test kits because they're mold is everywhere, they're no good. But then you mentioned, we do swab in operating rooms and stuff grows. Because I have been talking to students in my class, and this person lives in Burke from the quad, and they had said that they saw specks on their ceiling. They had someone come check it out. They said that's not mold. Swabbed it, but it was the growth has a lot of growth, and then it wasn't treated or anything. And then I know this person was feeling concerned, because they didn't really feel like the question was really answered, or they didn't feel like they had not proof, but you know what I'm saying? It was just that's not. It kind of felt like it was kind of pushed aside,
right.
That it wasn't it, and then they might not have the information. Then they have this petri dish in their room full of these huge black growing things, and they feel unsafe in these rooms that they're paying for.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
So let me try to break down.
Yeah.
So what I want to be clear on my point. Because mold is ubiquitous, wherever you swab, you might get different results, but it's everywhere, and which is why CDC and other regulatory bodies say, I think that's why they dissuade against it, because you are going to get positive results. If we go and look at something and someone is not satisfied with the result, as I've said all the time, from the time I got here, shoot me an email, I will come meet with you personally, and look at the situation and look at what was done and look and discuss it with you in detail. You know, we do, I'm not sure, it might be 6,000 work orders a year, something like that. So it's easy. I'm not gonna make any excuses, but if someone's not satisfied or doesn't get satisfaction, I want them to reach out to me. The other thing I would highly encourage folks to do, if you do have serious concern about how you feel, you should definitely go to health services. Because as I started this off, I'm not a physician, I'm not a scientist. I want to look at things, but if someone really feels like, you know what, I don't feel good, then they definitely should not fool around with that. They should go and be seen, you know, right away. So that's what I recommend for that. I need to go look at that specifically and take a look at that particular case. Please encourage that person to
Yes,
reach out to
definitely. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, the floor remains open. I know Senator Hunt, you did have your hand up originally. Do you still have something to say? No. All right, other questions or comments? Yes, Senator.
Okay, good presentation, but I wanted to know how, very educative, I wanted to know how we are going to educate the other students, because students are calling their parents to inform about the mold, and which is incorrect. So how are you going to educate the other students to know that there is mold everywhere? So how are they going to prevent it, and how are they going to take care of themselves?
That's an excellent point. We, at the beginning of the year, we have been going as a group to speak to the RAs. I think I heard someone say they're going to want us to speak to the RAs again. I would really appreciate some feedback from you all on how I can best achieve that exact point, because I'm really not sure myself how to do it. I think in the beginning, when everybody first gets to school, I mean, it's like, oh my God, you just got here, you got a million things on your mind. Does anybody really want to stop and talk about mold with me? But it's not long into the semester, and all of a sudden, you know, and I didn't bring up the fact that we've got the leaves, you know, you've got leaf mold and tree mold, plus you've got our grounds teams out there blowing it, you know, so there's more stuff in the air, more allergens, all that stuff going on right now this time of year, which can affect how people feel. But I would welcome anyone's idea on how I can get this message across, whether it's functions that we do, you know, maybe we kick off a mold presentation in the pavilion or something. Yeah, I mean, we're all for it, because believe me, the more we all know about it, the better all of our lives become.
So yes, anybody has any ideas and stuff like that, then we can. So I'll go Senator at the end, and then back to Senator Powers.
So I am an RA, so I would make a recommendation that you make a poster of like essential information that you want students to know, like information that you want to carry across. And then, I mean, it's a little more simple than, you know, an event at the pavilion, but you could just make these posters, have them delivered to the RA's mailboxes, and then they can go on all their poster boards in their halls, and then you can reach pretty much every single residential student.
I love it. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Senator Powers.
Especially because the quad is like all freshmen besides the RAs. A lot of us are coming in new and we barely know what's going on anyways, and trying to, you said like we're cramming, moving stuff around. I really love when you mentioned putting a sticker on those vents, like saying, hey, this is something to be aware of, because some people might not even thought about it, like, oh, I just been keeping my laundry here. So I think that's really gonna help people be aware that that is what could cause an issue, that it could, they have something they can do to prevent it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Are there ever any events just for quad, or for, you know, for occupants of the quads? The Olympics?
Paralympics. Paralympics. It's the RAs of the quad just host the Paralympics every year.
So that would be a great place for us to maybe do some education.
And maybe you can also call for some emergency meeting for 1 hour to educate the students, maybe compulsory. I can't remember, they have some announcements about sex and alcohol to teach the freshmen. They give us compulsory information for us to attend. And we just spend 1 hour there, and very educative. So you can also post some, because a lot of people, students doesn't read their emails, doesn't read the post we post there. So having a compulsory meeting for freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors, maybe that one too.
Okay. Okay. I love it. I love it.
All right, the time has expired on this discussion, but I think this is still an important topic. So if you all have anything, any questions or whatnot, let me know. We could either continue this conversation next week on the agenda. We could have one of the committees deal with it. So if you have anything else after this, feel free to reach out and we will continue moving forward. Thank you so much.
And never hesitate to email me directly. Just email me. Happy to respond. Thank you.
All right, next for new and existing business.